You've tuned into Heroes Wanted. I am your host, Joe Prim. This new intro is a work in progress as I work through the script. If you have any ideas or thoughts on music or the script for this new kind of, not really a new podcast, but this new direction that this podcast is going in, give me your thoughts on Facebook. You can find me at Joe Prim, or on Instagram, you can find me at Prepare.Defend.Lead. But this podcast is to help fathers get unstuck and to engage life with discipline and purpose. As we transition here, I kind of feel a little strange not having a real intro, but we'll be working on that. We'll get that up and running here real soon so that this can sound like a real podcast once again. So I want to share some thoughts here before I jump into the main thoughts of this episode, and that would be this. I am an introvert, and any of you who've been listening to this podcast for a while know and understand that that's what I am. I define being an introvert as somebody who does not get their energy from having conversations or interactions with other people, but rather by being by themselves, being alone. Whereas extroverts get their energy from being around other people and from interacting with other people, and are kind of depleted from their energy by being alone. And my wife is much more of an extrovert that way than I am. I am very much an introvert. I am the guy that for years and years showed up a couple minutes after an event would begin, sit in the back row or two, and then leave a few minutes before the event ended, because the socializing beforehand and the socializing at the end or afterwards really meant very little to me, because I didn't receive much from that. And because of that, to me, it was kind of a waste of time. Now, as I've matured and as I have grown and as I have pushed myself continually outside of my comfort zone, when we moved into this new development down here in Texas, one of the commitments that I had made to my family and to myself was to get more involved in the community here. It's a new community that's just coming out of the ground. It's a perfect new start, a new beginning for everybody here. So I committed to myself that I would get involved in this community. We're one of only, I think, less than a handful of people that already have homes out here. Majority of people are either planning on retiring here, maybe have houses coming out of the ground, or have a barn due up here that they come out and visit on the weekends or once a month. And then a lot of the property out here was just purchased up by investors, just kind of wanting something to sit on versus leave their money in the bank or in the stock market. So there's a little bit of everything out here, but there's not a lot of people. Perfect time for me to get involved and become part of the leadership, become part of the community here in this development, this 1,600-acre development. So I was asked to join the grazing committee here, and I agreed to join. My responsibilities are kind of cool with this grazing committee, and on this property, this development that we live in is 1,600 acres, has exotic animals. And these exotic animals are what helps keep our taxes low with an agriculture exemption. So we have animals ranging from black bucks to gemsbuck to audads to red stag to fallow deer and sika deer and axis deer. And from time to time, well, I should say almost every night, different species of animals, or as they move to where they're going to spend the night, move across our property, and again in the morning, move back to where they're going to hang out for the day. And it's because of these exotic animals, it's a really cool place to live. From time to time, I'll even just grab my son and say, hey, let's go for a drive around, and we'll just kind of spy out with some binoculars and look around and see what animals we can see. A lot of times they're right there along the road, but it's enjoyable. It's great to be out there, fresh air, sunshine, and watching these beautiful animals that normally you would never get an opportunity to see. So because of how much we and I and our family here value these animals, I thought it would be a perfect opportunity for me to join in something and become part of the community in that way on something that we absolutely love. And so far, it has been an absolutely great experience. Gotten an opportunity to meet some different people that are out here. Most of us kind of have the same idea and same vision for the future of this development, and converse with them, look into things, investigate things, and work together towards the greater good of this community. Has been a great experience. So why am I saying all this? I'm saying all this because I want to encourage those of you that are like I was before, that are complete introverts, are pretty much cut themselves off or use the fact that they're an introvert as an excuse to stay to themselves, to not get involved, to let other people that are more extroverts do the talking, do the meetings, make the decisions. You have a lot to give. And let me tell you why I believe you have a lot to give. I think that as introverts, we come at meetings and we come at conversations and we come at all of that just a little bit differently. Rarely do I enter into a conversation or show up to a meeting where I haven't, or even make a phone call where I haven't kind of rehearsed what I want to say, how I'm going to say it, and at least a few points that I want to make sure that I get across, right? I show up to a meeting, I have notes on questions I want to ask. I have notes on points that I want to make sure that are covered during the meeting. And because I'm an introvert and get nothing back in return, I can be very brief with my questions. I can be very brief with my comments. I can be very brief with the points I want to get across because they're all noted. I have them all noted. I've gone over exactly what I want to do, what I want to have accomplished. And I think that those of you out there that are introverts can use that as a strength. Because not only is it a strength for you to get what you need out of the situation, it also helps the other people because now the time is cut down because you can be brief in what you want to say. Number two, you should be that much better of a listener. So now we have people that are listening, people that are keeping the points brief, and people that are keeping us on task and moving in the right direction. So it not only benefits you, because you should be working and be so intentional about the way that you speak, but it also helps the other people. One of the biggest surprises, though, to me is the lack of skills in communicating that so many people that would put themselves into these types of positions have. No tact, the inability to listen, the inability to sell. And let's face it, guys, whether you are in sales or not, you are always in sales, right? Whether it's selling where you want to go on vacation this year, or whether it's selling your boss on giving you a raise, or selling somebody on why you are the man for the job, or selling somebody or selling your son on why he needs to make his bed every morning. Sales are a part of everything that we do. And if you cannot sell your ideas to people, ultimately you will fail. If you can't have tact with people and you're trite about things and you let your ego get in the way, eventually you will fail. If you can't listen to other people and allow other people to share what they're thinking, ultimately you will fail. So those of you that are extroverts out there, my word for you is the same as the introverts. Be very intentional. Make it your intention to build rapport with others. Make it your intention to listen. Make it your intention to allow everybody an opportunity to share what they're thinking. Because a lot of times we can have a tendency to know what we want to do or where we want things to go. And we might want to cut somebody short in their ability to share their ideas. But in doing so, you might miss out on what may have been the best idea or the best course of action or the best thing to investigate. So don't allow yourself to get cut short in those areas or yourself to get in the way. So introverts, get out there. Don't lie to yourself and say that you can't do this stuff and that this is somebody else's responsibility. Get out there and do it. You extroverts, you're going to get out there and do it anyway. Just do it better, because I know you got it in you to do that too. So with that kind of rambling out of the way and just kind of sharing where I'm at, guys, I'm actually excited, and more excited, I should say, than I have been ever probably in sharing and building community and building rapport and the need and putting the efforts in that I have in since I started this podcast and since I really started pushing my growth and learning is learning how to communicate and learning how to sell your ideas and learning how to listen with intent, learning how to be present. These things are so powerful. If you are not out there reading books or listening to podcasts, Scott Mann from the Rooftop Leader podcast just had a great episode kind of breaking down the idea of communication being a soft skill and why it is so important. Go listen to that podcast. There's a great book called Building Rapport. I don't know the authors offhand, but I read it at least a couple years ago, which it is written from some people that were investigators for police departments. They would get pulled in, but then they started going and doing more investigations and more interviews and more interrogations of terrorists. And the idea of building rapport with people that you share basically nothing with, right? No ideals do you share with those people, but yet you need to build rapport with them in order to get the information that you need or in order to understand where they're coming from so that you can get that information. A really good book. If you want to learn more about communicating and listening and being curious and pulling those ideas out of other people, that book Rapport, I highly, highly recommend. So with that out of the way, let's jump into this idea. This is an idea that I've been thinking about, I've been pouring myself into, I've been researching, I've been thinking about and meditating on and praying on and doing just about everything on this idea of a script and living out our lives as a script. And I don't know exactly where this is going to go. This is a huge part already of the Heroes Wanted coaching program, is this idea of script. So you guys are getting kind of a glimpse into that program. But I think that this idea of script is going to continue to grow around Heroes Wanted and become a bigger part and grow this idea of the script and why we as men so often end up feeling lost, feeling stuck, feeling frustrated because of this script. So let's jump into it. I want you guys to imagine, if you will, that you are an actor. Most of us acted at some point in our life. Not that we did a very good job of it, but at some point in our life, we were part of a play. Maybe an elementary school, maybe a church Christmas play, maybe something along that. Maybe some of you guys out there even moved beyond that, which would be really cool. But imagine, if you will, those moments. And even if you didn't do that, maybe you were in band, maybe you were someplace else, maybe in sports, where you can kind of imagine what it's like to have the spotlight on you, and then things change. So imagine, put yourself in this spot where you are this actor. You were given your script when you were given the part. You've diligently studied this script. You know it inside and out. You know the script and the lines from the other actors and actresses in this play. You know the way that the scenes change. You know where the lights are going to be. You've practiced and practiced. You've got your tone down. You've got your cues down. You've got your positioning and moves and the backdrops. You've got this thing dialed in like nobody's business. And why? Because you've prepared, right? You've heard this over and over again. You've got this. Now, halfway through the play continues moving forward. The backdrops are moving. The lights are moving as you try to catch up and stay in the lights. People are asking questions and conversations are going on in this play, and all you can do is ad lib. You are like an improv comedian out there in this play. You're confused. You're frustrated. You're lost. You're stuck here on stage just going through the motions because you were only given half the script. You had only practiced out half of the script, and you got to the end of that script, and the play just kept on moving forward. The lights are moving, the backdrop's changing, the scenes change, furniture's getting moved around, and here you are, spinning around in circles, not knowing your lines. It's because I believe, and I know it's true for me, that we followed a script from the time we were boys. It goes something roughly like this. You go to school, graduate from high school, you go to college, or maybe the military or the trade school. Then you jump into your job, you get married, you have your kids, and boom. Where are you? You know, there's other little things along the way that are milestones, and all this stuff varies from family to family, culture to culture, country to country, region to region, right? Everybody's script is just a little bit different. Some of you guys had milestones in that maybe your first deer going hunting, right? Or your first car was maybe a big deal in your family, your first house after college and getting your job, maybe Little League and a Little League playoffs and championship were a part of the milestones of you growing up. Maybe you were big into Boy Scouts and became an Eagle Scout. All these little milestones, but generally the script stays the same. And some of you guys are listening and maybe you're rebels and maybe you switched around the order a little bit of the script. And maybe some of you guys, your script is much different. But 99% of you out there listening to this podcast followed some sort of script that got you or is in the process of getting you from your boyhood to what we would consider as becoming a man. Now, the script is not necessarily bad, right? The script gives you purpose, and it gives you direction during some of the craziest years of your life, right? Through your years as a teenager and through your years of your 20s and as a young man, you're trying to figure out so much, trying to go so many different places, 1,000 miles an hour, that without this script, some of you would have wiped out and ended up a complete disaster. But the purpose of that script in reality is to drive forward the future of our families and of our cultures. It's very protective in that it is necessary for you to grow up, have some sort of security, and then procreate, right? And then you pass along to your children your traditions, the ideals of your family, the ideals of your region, the traditions of your country, right? Get passed on to that next generation. So the script is really important in keeping society as a whole moving in a direction that is beneficial to the most. But the dark side of following the script, the consequence of following the script, is that more often than not, it pulls you away from the hero within that you were certain that you would become when you became a man. As a boy, we often dream about what type of hero that we are going to be when we become a man. And whether that hero is off fighting a war in faraway galaxies, or whether that hero is playing football or baseball for your favorite team, or whether that hero is carrying a gun and serving the community in one way or the other, or carrying a gun and going overseas to keep you safe in another way, or whether that be a doctor that you see as a hero because of the healing that they can bring to their community, or a scientist, right? All of us are different, and all of us looked up to different people, but all of us men were certain that at some point, someday, that we would be making an impact. But these heroic dreams end up getting crushed by the obligations, apathy, and the naysayers who would rather keep you safe and on the scripted path where you will not soar high enough or dive down deep enough to make them look bad or feel uncomfortable when you show up for the barbecue on the 4th of July or you're there at Easter dinner. These guides, often those that you trust the most, insert a ring in your nose or collars around your neck to keep their grips on you and keep you content with average and keep you on task following the script. The good news is that if you are alive and breathing today, there is hope for you to get unstuck, to find your way, and to find your purpose. Nobody said it's going to be easy to find that direction, to get yourself gathered back up enough to go where you want to go. But I am proof that it is possible. I believe wholeheartedly, like I said in a post a while back, and maybe I've said it on the podcast, when you are looking through your eyes at where you are at, it is often difficult to see anything but difficulty and strife and hardship in front of you. But when I talk to you guys, whether on Facebook or coaching or calls or whatever I'm doing, I see your potential. I see what you can become. I hear it in your voices. There is a longing to grow. There is a longing to become stronger, to do something of impact, to serve a purpose bigger than you. And I believe that you were created for more. And I'm not coming from some crazy preaching some prosperity type gospel BS, because I look at it and I look at myself and I look at other men that I know. I look at other guys that I've had conversations with, and I'm reminded that the Bible is filled with men that were fearful, that lacked confidence in themselves, that made mistakes, that murdered, that struggled, that were self-conscious, that committed adultery, that had little faith, that disobeyed, that struggled with anger and hatred, and were imperfect like you. But they were still used by him and had an amazing impact on the world. And I know that you can too. The decision must be made to abandon the average, to abandon the apathy, to abandon mediocrity, and to uncover the hero within. When we reach the end of the script, like the actor in this story that I started this with, when we reach the end of the script, having allowed the hero within to become buried under lies and fear and expectations of others, without a script, without a vision, without a purpose, we lose direction and we suffer. We get lost. We get stuck and we lose our way. We as men need a vision. We need a purpose and we need direction. Without a clear script, we get fearful. Fear as I've talked about in podcasts before, is so toxic and leads to making awful decisions that not only affect you and your life, but those that, again, you love the most. We end up sedating ourselves, whether that's with video games or porn or politics or we sabotage ourselves. We get into trouble. We allow ourselves to go down paths that cause difficulty in our marriages, difficulty with our children, difficulty with our careers or at work, because we sabotage ourselves. Sometimes we don't even know that we're sabotaging ourselves, but when we get stuck in situations because we're so unprepared and we're so uncertain and we're so lack confidence in ourselves, we make ourselves sick. Do this in your own life. Take a look. Investigate yourself. Now, I'm working on a journaling program, and this is part of it. I'll be releasing that at the end of February, at the beginning of March. If you would like to be the first ones in on the video, in the system, and an explanation for it, you can DM me on Instagram or on Facebook. I've done a couple of posts and have some people that are all lined up. They're going to be the first guys that get let into this, because I think it's so important that we track what we're doing in a very simple way. When I release it, maybe I'll do a podcast on why I developed what I developed, but I think we need a simple way to track some of this stuff, because I think a lot of us are unaware of how we are sedating ourselves. We're unaware of how we are sabotaging ourselves. I read a good book called The Big Leap, and talks in that book about how we sabotage ourselves. And once people start to really track what they're doing and where they're going, and when they seem to suffer maybe by migraines, or when they start to have problems with getting sick or having troubles getting out of bed, and they start to look at these things, and when they occur, it becomes clear that it's a form of sabotage. It's a form, those things happen when opportunities arise, and they end up sabotaging themselves. Some of you know full well that you're sabotaging yourself right now. You're doing things, you're entering into things, you're going places that you shouldn't be going, that potentially are sabotaging your life. And there's some of you out there that are listening that know exactly how you're sedating yourself, because it's become a crutch and it's become your purpose. And you know it's not serving a bigger purpose than yourself. We get into situations where we start pointing our finger and blaming other people instead of looking at ourselves. Awful, awful way. You can never move forward with that mentality and that way of looking at things. And at one end of the spectrum, we have angst. And at the other end of the spectrum, we have apathy. Complete opposites, right, guys? You got angst. You got some guys that are super pressure, a lot of angry energy in them. You got the other end of the spectrum, some guys that are at that place of apathy and depression where it's hard to get out of the recliner. But the consequences of, from one end of the spectrum, from the sedating to the sabotaging to the fear and the bad decision, the consequences fall once again on those we love the most. So as I mentioned earlier, I know there's potential in you. I know that you have the ability within you to uncover that hero that's within, to move aside the lies, and to move aside the fears, and to move aside the expectations of others, and allow that hero to rise. And because I believe that, I want to leave you guys with 3 questions that I would like you to ponder. If you have the ability, take these 3 questions and go spend some time by yourself this week. Go to a park, go park someplace, maybe your lunch break, maybe you turn off the podcast or the radio or the audio book on your way into work or your way home from work a couple of days, and ponder these 3 questions. Pray about them, write them down, write down your answers, and get deep on these 3 questions. What does your script look like? Where did your script come from? What was unique about your script? But what was the script that you followed? Number 2, where in your life have you accepted average? Have you accepted an average marriage? Have you accepted an average relationship with your children? Have you accepted being the average dad? Have you accepted the average job and the average life and the average vacation? And number 3, what needs to change in your life in order for you to move forward? So those are 3 questions. Spend some time, think about them, dig into them, dig into who you are with those questions. Those questions will lead to the answers that will drive you in the direction that you need to go. They will open up more questions, and there will be more answers that you can give, and those will even help you move off and further and deeper into your growth of learning and becoming more disciplined, becoming more confident, and having a purpose. I hope that this podcast was of value to you, and if it was, please share it, please review it, and please subscribe to it. I know I'm asking you to do something that will take some time to share and review and subscribe, but these things make a gigantic impact on where we can go with this podcast, how far we can move it forward. In the past, I didn't have much of a presence on Facebook. That was completely intentional. At this point, I have been investing a lot more time into Facebook, getting a Facebook group started for Heroes Wanted. If you're interested in that, if you are on Facebook, I have tried hard to pull you guys into some other areas, some other social media platforms, and been completely unsuccessful. So I know I can continue to beat my head against the wall and try to change things up, or I can come to where you're at, and I am doing that. You can find me there on Facebook as Joe Prim. You can find the group as Heroes Wanted 1. Come join. Let's have a conversation. Let's keep these conversations from this podcast going on into the next week. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you don't quite understand some of the concepts that I'm trying to get across, let me know on Instagram or let me know on Facebook. Let's keep these conversations going. Because when I'm sitting here looking at a computer screen, talking to a microphone and only having a one-way conversation and getting no feedback from you on if you understand, if there's clarity, or if you have questions, the only way that we can keep that going is if you come back to me and say, hey, I don't get this point, or I don't agree with you here. What do you think about this? Or can you give me some further explanation? And I got no problem doing that, guys. That is why I'm here. That's why I've invested thousands of dollars into this podcast and coaching and learning how to get my message across. That's why I've spent hours and hours talking to myself, doing the podcast like this, because I'm committed to you. I truly, truly want you to grow. I don't want you to be stuck. I want you to find your way to move forward. Dads, are you feeling stuck? Are you feeling lost and frustrated and lacking purpose? Are you in a rut going through the motions day after day and getting nowhere? If I could guarantee to get you out of this rut and give you clarity and direction in your life, have you feel confident in yourself and in the decisions you're making, and to find purpose, would you take me up on that offer? Here's how it works. We would work together one-on-one. We'll meet once a week on Zoom for 45 minutes for 12 weeks. I'll provide you with a personalized plan to get you unstuck and very clear on where you are going. We'll have weekly video lessons so that you can learn what you need to do, and assignments so you can put into practice what you are learning, and challenges to get you outside of your comfort zone where growth occurs and confidence is born. And I'll even provide the required books, including my favorite book on leadership, an awesome leather-bound journal, several field notebooks, and the supplies that you need to succeed delivered right to your front door. Now, there will be effort and sacrifice involved because everything of value has a price. But I will be with you every step of the way with 24/7 support via text so that I can help keep you on task. You will need to show up on time and be prepared for your one-on-one calls, complete the lessons, challenges, and assignments. But don't worry. Where you see uncertainty, I see your potential. I have been there and have experienced this journey myself firsthand. Now, what happens if you show up on time and you're prepared for your one-on-one calls, you complete your lessons, challenges, and assignments for the 12-week duration of the program, and you still don't have clarity and direction in your life? You still don't feel confident in yourself and your decisions, and you still have no purpose? Then I will keep coaching you for free until you do. There's no risk to you not leveling up. This program is not about change. It's not about evolving. It's about a new you. It's about uncovering the hero that is within you, but has been buried by years of lies, fear, and the expectations of others. Sure, you can continue doing nothing, but you know exactly where that leads because you're already there. You can try to do it yourself by reading countless books, watching a bunch of YouTube videos, and be careful, those cat videos can get distracting and throw everything off. Or listening to episodes of podcasts, hoping to find something that clicks. But if you're serious about finally taking control of your life, dropping the excuses, and becoming the father, the husband, and the leader that you want to be, let's schedule a strategy call where we can design a plan to get you out of that rut and heading in the direction that you want to go. You can email me at jprim@heroeswanted.us, put strategy in the subject line, and I will get you the schedule. If you have any questions, you can also hit me up there, and we'll get you on the schedule. Let's have a phone call. Let's have a conversation. Let's get you out of that rut and going in the right direction. Men, as always, hold fast, God bless, and keep moving forward. The world around us is changing by the moment. This world needs leaders. This world needs examples. This world needs people that will listen but aren't afraid to stand up and speak.